This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Shahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellow Wall podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 375 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about Borussia Dortmund's 2-0 win against Union Berlin, the most deserved relegation in Bundesliga history, and we will preview Saturday's game against VfL Wolfsburg, which is a must-win for Dortmund if they want to retain any chance for Champions League football next season. For all that and more, joins me, hopefully very ranty Matthias Zug today. Rants were demanded and rants were promised. So, yes. Matthias, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's extraordinarily chaotic today here at my house because I'm getting a new exterior put on the house. So, yeah, good times. All my windows are taped shut. So, theoretically, it's very well soundproofed, or we're all just going to die inside here. So, we'll see. We'll see if I'm on the yellow wall next week.
Well, yeah. At least it's well insulated. So, there you go. Yeah. Where to begin, Matthias? Dortmund really needed this win against Union Berlin. Obviously, a team that did not have as many losses as Dortmund thus far. Now Berlin have 7. Dortmund still have 10. Yeah, but in order to keep up with Frankfurt and Wolfsburg, who both also won their midweek game. Frankfurt, I think it was a 2-0 win against Augsburg. Not the most glorious, but I think Augsburg missed a penalty and hit the post. And Wolfsburg, they did win 3-1 against Stuttgart or something like that. I think there was a late Castro goal or something like that, but all in all, Wolfsburg were not really troubled by VfB. So, with all that being said, Matthias, I wasn't sure whether Dortmund would have the form to not make too many mistakes against Berlin, because I think Union is a team that is well organized, but on their own don't always create too many things. So, if you concede errors or commit errors rather, that's when they punish you. However, apart from the opening 2 minutes, I don't remember too many cock-ups by the Black and Yellows. What was your thoughts and takeaways from this opening crescendo?
Well, I mean, it crescendoed against the bar pretty early. And I mean, I hadn't even really focused on the game yet at that point. And whoa, and just hearing Steffen Freund on the commentary, like, oh crap. I was like, what just happened?
Emre Can happened.
Yeah, Emre Can happened really early, but then he settled after that. I think Emre Can is dealing with, rightfully so. He's got a few self-confidence issues, which is really weird to say about a player that plays like him, but he's been a little bit rattled by a few mistakes over the last several weeks, and then you get some insecurities, and that can happen. You know, it is what it is. Even someone as veteran and as seemingly unflappable as Mats Hummels occasionally makes a mistake like that. It's just Emre Can has made a few of them now in successive key matches. This time it didn't hurt Dortmund. Aside from that, and, you know, a few good passes from Union Berlin pushing Dortmund occasionally. And then obviously Max Kruse's shot that Marvin Hitz deflected onto the post. Union Berlin really didn't offer too much. Dortmund looked fairly comfortable after a while in possession. Obviously, once Dahoud and Sancho were on the pitch, it was game over. I mean, Dortmund just dominated. They showed that they are that much better, which shows how key Jadon Sancho is and Mahmoud Dahoud. overall, I would say as a quick summary, Dortmund absolutely deserved to win this match. They were significantly better. And it was probably the worst match Erling Haaland has ever played in front of goal. I mean, Dortmund had 20 shots. He had 6 of them, which is usually he has like 2 or 3 and scores 2 goals from 2 or 3 shots. And you could just tell he was very upset with himself. I mean, the body language was, he was pissed. And that's a little bit different than dejected. So I want to make that clear. So despite him being off, let's put it that way, Dortmund, after a while, seemingly just cruised. It was very professional. It was, I think I called it an Arbeitssieg, which it always is against Union Berlin because they make you earn it. To their credit, well organized, very disciplined, very tough, not dirty, but very tough. And beating Union Berlin isn't natural for Dortmund in the Bundesliga. I mean, it's 50-50 at this point. They win at home and lose in Berlin. But I'm very happy Dortmund won, and they won the way they did, and they kind of had to really work for it and never gave up. It was good to see, and it was a good way to get into this last key stretch of matches.
Yeah, see, as Dortmund are now running the table, I'm very glad that Terzic finally has unveiled Dortmund's secret weapon, and he's rested him for quite a while, but now he's starting Lukas Piszczek back in the starting lineup. I think that was only his 2nd Bundesliga start. I think his 5th overall in all competitions this season, and I must say he played really well. Did not look old at all. I mean, Morey in the recent past made a few many mistakes against Bremen again. I think the offside trap, and I think Terzic did also explain that he wanted someone who can head the ball a little bit better. And Lukas Piszczek obviously is by no means a terrible player, and considering that Union Berlin have a lot of features and qualities, I don't think they're the paciest team. So if you go up against, I don't know, either Kruse or Endo or Prömel, if he goes forward, although I think this time he played a bit more as a right back, so basically the opposite side of the field from Piszczek. But I think Ingvartsen is also in that mix of players that Piszczek can go up against. I wasn't too concerned, to be honest, with Piszczek's arguable lack of pace that he has. It's to me right now in sort of the crunch time of the season, it's important that you minimize errors, and Morey has been a source for errors, and Meunier sadly as well. So I right now would not necessarily start Meunier. I also would not necessarily start Can, to be honest, because he had a couple too many mistakes. I don't know how the lineup would have changed if Delaney was fit, because I think Dahoud needed a break. So I can see where Terzic was coming from, but the addition of Piszczek really helped solidify this team, and obviously Gio Reyna right now has a good stretch of form, even if it's maybe just a couple of days, I don't know, but he's clicking a little bit better, and that is very positive to see. And of course, Marco Reus, I think, had another really fantastic game. It's good to see that some players are hitting a solid level of form right now when it's absolutely needed. I mean, maybe it's already too little too late, but we still have a couple of chances. If we, I think, win all 4 games, then Dortmund might qualify, but that sort of depends on how Wolfsburg are playing against Leipzig, for example, and then, of course, Dortmund have to beat Leipzig themselves. So many things to contemplate, but in the meantime, there was some controversy because of the way Marco Reus did win the penalty. His trailing leg somewhat caressed the ribcage of Andreas Lute. Matthias, how do you judge this penalty call?
I'm fine with it. Because at the end of the day, Lute did the thing he shouldn't have done. He committed. He committed low. He committed towards Marco Reus's legs. And the momentum of Marco Reus also going away from goal is what makes it honestly dumb that the keeper made that call, and that forced the referee's hand. I'm not. Yes, I've seen the comments that it's a clear dive. I'm sorry, it's not a clear dive. It was definitely Marco Reus looking for the penalty. There's no doubt about that. Could he have kept on running? Probably, but given where he tipped the ball past Lute to a point where it was harder for him to get to, he made the intelligent play and forced the referee to make a call. Now, we've seen blatant dives where there's no contact whatsoever, and that is not what the situation is. Given also some of the penalties that have been called against Dortmund, thinking Manchester City, in particular with Emre Can, where it was significantly more debatable, I'm fine with this. It's kind of one of those, what goes around comes around. At some point, Dortmund are going to play against Bayern, and Bayern are going to get a penalty against Dortmund that's clearly not one. So it's just, I'm fine with it. That's what happens. It got reviewed quite an extensive period of time and looked at very closely, and they obviously couldn't tell enough intent of one over the other. And at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that Lute committed to going down to Marco Reus's feet. And if you do that as a keeper and you don't get the ball, odds are you're somehow going to get the guy. And there was contact, so I can see why it was given. If it wouldn't have been given, I wouldn't have freaked out over it. It would have been annoying given some of the penalties and calls Dortmund has gotten against it in recent weeks. But yeah, to me, it's not a clear dive. It's definitely a player, a veteran, intelligent, attacking player looking for the contact, and a keeper unintelligently offering it to him on a silver platter.
Yeah, also we're at the stage of the season where I don't even care anymore. You know, you need to get results, and if this is the way and mean you get a penalty, fair enough. And I think if you go by the VAR guidelines, I don't think there would have been enough to overturn it to a no call, just because it's not an obvious error in my view. I can understand that Union Berlin fans might see it a bit differently, but yeah, I can live with it as well. And I don't know if it's a real dive, because you know he still was brought down by Lute, even though he had the little. Yeah, it's a bit of a moral gray area. Let's put it this way. But
you know, Stefan, the one thing that bothers me about this whole conversation is for weeks, months, maybe even years, I have heard experts on other podcasts and TV and written words say Dortmund aren't dirty enough. Like they don't commit enough tactical fouls to stop opposition movement.
Which is true.
Which is absolutely correct. I prefer, but then Marco Reus does something like that, and there's criticism for that. I'm like, I'm sorry, this to me is less annoying than tactical fouls. I get the point for tactical fouls. I find it very unsportsmanlike, extremely unsportsmanlike. This I don't categorize as such. So you can't say Dortmund aren't cunning enough and then criticize them for doing something cunning. It just, and the other thing is, I watch a lot of South American football. This wouldn't even be a discussion. I'm sorry. It just wouldn't, because it's what you expect from your attacking player in that situation. It wasn't a dive. It wasn't a cheat. I've seen people say, oh, he did his best Ian Robben interpretation. Please don't even insult me with that bullshit.
Yeah, seriously.
That's not even comparable at all. So just stop it. Now, either you want Dortmund to be cunning or you don't. You can't have both.
Yeah, well, the good thing is that Marco Reus then also converted said penalty, because Haaland sort of had a double miss. And if I recall correctly, Reus didn't really shoot the ball in the net. He sort of more blocked it into the net as the defender. I don't remember who it was, or just try to clear the ball out of the or away from the line, because I think the Haaland rebound was still goal bound, but just not quick enough to go in by itself. But yeah, little luck was in there. The penalty was not as well taken as the one against Bremen by Haaland, which is a bit of a shame, because I think he can do better in that case. And yeah, Haaland, I think on a good day, he arguably has a hat trick or maybe even 4 goals. But it was not a good day. Right now, I think there are certain questions around Haaland. First of all, does the merry-go-round by his dad and his agent sort of affect him, or maybe the decision by Dortmund, which I think Zorc made pretty clear, but I didn't see the interview by myself because it was on Sky and I don't have Sky. But I think Zorc said that whatever happens, wherever Dortmund finish in the league table, that Haaland will play for Dortmund next season, and maybe that's not in the Haaland sort of plan, and maybe that affects him. I don't know, and maybe this fatigue because he has to play a lot because Dortmund do not have real other alternatives right now. So yeah, I'm not sure. I really hope he snaps out of it. The brace against Bremen was very welcome, so very glad with that. And Matthias, now the good news is that Dortmund did find a second goal, but in the meantime, I think you have to once again praise Marvin Hitz for that spectacular save on Max Kruse, because I didn't even know that he got to the ball until I saw the replay.
Yeah, no, he did an excellent job. He got over there. He actually showed some form of vertical leap, which is kind of a criticism I have of him, because he's not an overly athletic keeper, and he doesn't, like, when he is athletic, it doesn't really look graceful in that sense. But he did a great job. I believe that was the only shot on target was that one. Because and the only one that he actually had to save. I mean, think about that. In the entire match, that was the only real one that Marvin Hitz had to save of the 5 shots that Union Berlin got. But it was critical because Union Berlin, it would have been a stolen point, to be perfectly honest. I hate losing points in general to teams that really don't do much aside from the occasional set piece where they don't get lucky with the goal on the set piece because it's obviously skill and training, but they're lucky that they're in that position to have that set piece. And that's why I was really happy to see it. Also because I'm not a Max Kruse fan. I find him unlikable personally. I don't care for him much as a human being from everything he does and says. It's just, it's like Sandro Wagner type player and person for me, where I'm kind of like, I can do without him. He has an odd cult following, which I just don't get. To me, he's not likable. He's a borderline lazy player on the pitch, in my opinion, but he obviously is talented. And who knows if he would have had a different mental attitude, who he could have been in his career. But I'm glad that Marvin Hitz denied him the satisfaction of scoring that goal, because he wouldn't have deserved it, because he really did nothing the entire match, in my opinion. Ingvartsen was probably the best attacking player for Union Berlin on the day. And yeah, I've been critical of Hitz. I'm still critical of him. I think Bürki is a significantly better keeper, but Hitz did a great job in that instance.
Yeah, Bürki wasn't even in the squad because I think he had a cold. So
yes, the longest lasting cold in German history.
Yeah, but I think the real changer and the key moment in this game, apart of obviously from the penalty goal in the 27th minute, which sort of put Dortmund on track to win this game, and also did put Dortmund more in control. I think that was significant that when Dortmund had the lead, that they knew how to play with the ball. I mean, in the second half, there were minutes where Berlin had a couple of pressure phases where Dortmund just were sloppy on the ball and gave it away quickly, either due to mistakes or trying to rush a counter-attack sometimes a little bit too fast. But obviously in the 59th minute, so around the 60-minute mark, we had finally the reintroduction of Jadon Sancho, his 100th Bundesliga game, and boy, did Dortmund miss him. It's obviously lucky that in the half hour, Sancho looked like he was never gone, right back in form. Obviously, that often happens that players return from injury and look superb right away, but then the next couple of games, there's more of a dip again. But nevertheless, Matthias, the energy of this entire team shifted, including the one of Erling Haaland. How did you see the reintroduction by Sancho?
Was he even hurt? Like, for real? It was insane. I was watching him, like, it's like he never missed a beat from his. I mean, he came on and boom, top form Sancho. Like it didn't even take him 10 seconds. The counterattacks were fluid. His movement on and off the ball, with the ball, his passing was incredible. And that's really a point of his game that I feel like he needed to work on the most, was in movement, in transition, playing a ball in a perfect lane. That's not, that's a playmaker attribute that Jadon Sancho occasionally would have, but too often in transition, he would then stop the ball, cut back, and slow everything down. He didn't do that. And some of those passes he played, the one I'm thinking of right now on top of my head is the one to Haaland, where he played it and Haaland had to run onto it. And then unfortunately the angle was really tight for Haaland. That was kind of one of those misses where I'm like, that's a really hard one given how he had to wrap his foot around the ball to even try to get it on target. The vision, and he's obviously rested, which you could see. And to bring someone on like Jadon Sancho in the last 30 minutes of a game like this versus a team like Union Berlin, I mean, that's cheat mode. In that sense, it's just not fair for a team like Union Berlin because Jadon Sancho is a world-class player when he plays at this level. He absolutely is. And what he can do to elevate Dortmund's game is fantastic. And it also reduces the pressure on Marco Reus to have to do so much. It reduces the pressure on players that are still trying to regain some form, like Torgan Hazard or Julian Brandt or Gio Reyna. And it spreads it out a little bit more in the sense of, this guy can do it. And he has such an incredibly good understanding with Marco Reus and Erling Haaland in attack. It's that the automatism that you always applaud that they just have. They have this knowledge of where they are on the pitch that the other players just don't have, not to their fault, but they just don't. And those three simply do. And it was literally a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, so it was like a triple substitution. Granted, Dahoud came on for Emre Can, but there was another player that came on, and it was Rafael Guerreiro with Jadon Sancho. I think if you talk about automatism, if someone's eyes really lit up, then it were Guerreiro's eyes, to be honest, because he also felt like an entirely different player. And it's quite amazing how much Sancho can get out of Guerreiro, because there is so much trust between those two players. They sort of have a really good understanding for each other, and Guerreiro is less afraid going forward and does stuff. I don't know. It's like he gains some self-confidence as well. And we all know how great Guerreiro can be, but there was sort of a stint where he wasn't really at his best. But if once you plugged in Sancho, I think Guerreiro really started to gel. And yeah, it's something to behold. And obviously, you would wish that Guerreiro would play the way he plays, regardless of who he's partnered with. But if you are playing with Jadon Sancho and a player of this quality, obviously he will make you look better. That's just natural. So yeah, just wanted to mention that. And obviously it was then Guerreiro who finally killed off this game in the 88th minute. Union Berlin had a corner, and I predicted the equalizer on Twitter, but obviously, as per usual, I was wrong, and Union Berlin sort of passed the ball in their final desperate attempts to still maybe find a goal and find a cross into the box, pass it to Jadon Sancho, and then we had a very quick transition over Sancho to Brandt and then Guerreiro. And obviously, I would be remiss if I wouldn't mention the statistics that Adam Dorowski has posted on Twitter, because it was Jadon Sancho's 100th Bundesliga game, and he also counts hockey-style scoring, and in that regard, we total 117 contributions, 36 goals, 49 first assists, 32 second assists, which makes 81 total assists, and if you combine that with the goals, it comes to 117 points. So Matthias, obviously, if you just count the traditional scoring, it's 36 goals and 43 assists. But that's just tremendous, and I don't know how much more games we will see with Jadon Sancho in a Dortmund shirt, because there are not many games left in this season, just 4 Bundesliga games and maybe 2 cup games, and he might leave this summer. But if you think about that, Sancho developed in Dortmund and steadily increased his performances, and especially this season, I think reached a new level after a long time where he didn't reach anything really. What do you make of his Dortmund career? Should it end soon after 100 Bundesliga games?
Well, it's insane to me that someone his age has played 100 Bundesliga games. I mean, that's an incredible achievement in and to itself. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned some of his dips in form, which every player goes through. Obviously, some of his misjudgments off the pitch, which I feel like he has learned from and matured. And what I feel this season, beyond any of the other seasons, and maybe it's because in his head he knows this is his last season as a Borussia Dortmund player, he seems to really care a lot about Borussia Dortmund. He has embraced it. He identifies with it. He is a Dortmunder now. I mean, this is the club where he has spent most of his professional career. It's all of his professional career, not counting any youth time where he, spent at Manchester City or whatever. This is his club. This is the club that brought him out of youth football. This is the club where he first played internationally, first at the professional level, and then also for England. And he cares. You can just tell he actually cares. And that's always one of those things when you look at young players coming from abroad, it's hard for them to connect with a club that's not from their home, not their language. I mean, Ousmane Dembele, I don't think he ever really connected with Borussia Dortmund. I think Christian Pulisic probably did. I don't know about Gio Reyna yet at this point. I think Bellingham giving him 3-4 years absolutely will. And obviously Bellingham has been deprived of the yellow wall, which Jadon Sancho probably now values more that it's not there during his final season. And I'm making a huge assumption that it's his final season, obviously. But that I feel like he's matured a lot during the course of this season on and off the pitch. And he is a near complete player. And if he does leave Borussia Dortmund after this season, he's going to bring in a lot of money, because those greedy Super League clubs from England will definitely want to spend a lot of money on him, even though they don't have the guaranteed Super League income.
I was just going to say, so only to go even further into that, I don't know which newspaper. I think it was Gazzetta dello Sport, but I might be wrong. That did the math and came to the conclusion that I think between the 12 founding members there is around 8 billion of debt. So I don't know if that's euros or dollars, but either way, these numbers are quite insane. I also don't know how valid they are, to be honest, but well,
Manchester City can clear their books at any given time.
That's true.
We know that. It's kind of like PSG not being part of the Super League discussion because they just don't need it. I mean, forget anything anybody said. The Super League is purely about guaranteeing revenue for teams that are addicted to spending it and not know how to manage their finances. And that's why a lot of German teams really weren't interested either, because why would you as Bayern or Dortmund, especially as Bayern? There's literally no need. Manchester City was the one kind of in there where I also went, okay, that doesn't make sense for them because they got the cash. And that's why when I look at English teams, we talk Manchester United, we talk Liverpool when it comes to Jadon Sancho, but really the team that has the cash to do it is Manchester City, because they can clear their books at any given time, given that they are a state-run, state-owned entity.
You know what is funny? There are a few clubs in those 12-team pool that doesn't really, to me, need the Super League, because I feel like they are guaranteed to play in the Champions League anyway, and I don't know if you can monetize the Super League this much better. And going 3.5 billion in debt from the get-go, I don't know if that's sustainable. I think Piqué had a statement toward that he doesn't think it is. And if you think about it, for Dortmund, it actually would be helpful, and for other teams like maybe Tottenham also as well, because for them Champions League isn't necessarily guaranteed, and then having this guaranteed revenue just from that sort of perspective, that would actually make sense if you just from a cold money perspective, but also only if you think in the very short term. So Matthias, I must ask, since you have sympathies for Inter and Tottenham as well, how did the news of the Super League that was breaking on Sunday evening, what did that do with you?
In a sporting sense, I have to say nothing has rocked me more in a sporting sense in my life than that. Obviously, I wasn't around for the Bundesliga scandal, which turned 50 years old this week, by the way. I was too young, in like sports betting and point shaving. Like, I grew up in the Southeast, so, like SEC point shaving. Yeah, that's normal. Like Serie A doing point shaving. Yeah, whatever. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. You kind of get immune to that. But the fact that this happened, or that this was attempted to happen, and I guarantee you it's not going to be the last time, because Real Madrid, Juventus, and Barcelona, in particular, those three clubs are incredibly desperate. You can just tell how desperate they are. That Inter and Milan were part of it. Milan's ownership is essentially because of a defaulted loan, if you think about it. Richard Carmen, who does the Serie A Sit Down, fantastic podcast on Serie A. I recommend everybody listen to it. He's an AC Milan fan and a Schalke fan and a Washington football team's fan. So, he's got great taste. He's having a shitty year. But the way that happened, it's foreign investor from China that's into Inter Milan, even though the Chinese government basically said football investment needs to be pulled back. So there's desperation there. Tottenham was the one that kind of shocked me, because it's not the Glazers, it's not massively indebted Spanish clubs or the corrupt Juventus ownership. And that really, really rocked me. I'll be honest, because I watched the Southampton match yesterday and I was rooting for Southampton, because I just don't care. It has left me completely cold. There's a League Cup final coming up. I don't care. I mean, it's a League Cup, so who actually cares anyway? And with Inter, I cared this season. Inter's going to win the Scudetto, and now I don't care. I just don't. They robbed me of that joy. They really did. And I've been a Spurs supporter for 30 years, exactly. The FA Cup winning season in 1990-91 was when I started. And Inter, I was at an Inter match before I ever went to a Dortmund match. Before I turned the age of 3, I was at the San Siro. So Inter has been part of me for over 40 years. And that really deeply upset me. I felt so incredibly betrayed. And I kind of vented it on Twitter, like, how can I go back to supporting the club? And somebody said something very insightful. That said, it's not the club, it's the ownership. And that made me think about it. I'm like, listen, I'm obviously not a fan of the Russian government or the Chinese government, but that doesn't mean I have an issue with the Russian people or the Chinese people. In fact, oftentimes it's the complete opposite, deep sympathies for them. And so the players on the pitch, this wasn't their decision. A lot of them hate the decision, hated the direction it was going. The kit man, the people working the concessions in normal years, some of them who were furloughed by some of these clubs in England. It's not their fault. And so I can compartmentalize the ownership from the club, but it's probably going to take me through this season to really digest that. And the one that really pains me is Inter, because they're going to win Serie A and I can't even enjoy it. And that's really massively disappointing. And the fact that Dortmund and Bayern said no to this, I'm not at all surprised at all. It's like, no, this is like German football to a degree, not to sound immensely arrogant, is like the consciousness of what club football structure should be in Europe because of 50+1. And I don't know what the club structure is like in France. I don't know it well enough. I think Sweden also has a 50+1 rule, something like that. I know obviously France probably mixed, some are, some aren't. But French clubs also, like, there's because French clubs know they're, aside from PSG, occasionally Lyon, no one's really going to push too far in the Champions League. So there's a purity in the sport there still. That I feel like in the Bundesliga, we live through German football so deeply because of our club structure. And it reminded me again why we're so awesome. Sound massively arrogant. And the Bundesliga is so awesome. And some of these other country leagues are so deeply unhealthy. Probably the worst one being the English league structure, because owners go into the Championship or League One bankrolling, hoping to hit the lottery, which is the Premier League and then the Champions League. And if it doesn't work fast enough, you have destitute clubs. I mean, just look at Sheffield Wednesday right now, the state they're in. And that can happen in Germany. It has happened. Look at 1860. But overall, the risk isn't quite there. And there's a connection with fans that you don't have in England. It's just not there anymore from these clubs. You're a consumer and not a fan. And in Germany, that still exists. It's more eroded now than it was maybe 20 or 30 years ago, but it's still there. So I guess that's less of a rant and more a therapeutic speech there, but that's how that whole thing made me feel. And then when it kind of went away, I was like, okay, now what? Like, I get really angry for 48 hours and now I got to drink a beer. Like, what's up with that? So we'll see. It'll take me this season to process now, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's a really weird one. Also, it's still sort of ongoing. I think Barcelona just released a statement on the Super League. I'm not entirely sure what's in it, but I think Barcelona sort of trying to stay in the Super League, or is still trying to keep it alive. But Més que un club, or whatever, more than one club. I think they should rename their statement into more than 1 billion of debt, because that's what's going on right now. And Barcelona are maybe not going to exist for some time, or I don't know what will happen to this club, but I don't think they're guaranteed to exist as the super and top club that they are right now, if they have to default on so many loans, because they're just a massive debt, and I don't see them making all this revenue. And maybe they just, to like all the other super clubs in that league, just need to be financially a bit more responsible, especially Real Madrid and Florentino Perez saying how all these clubs would not survive. I mean, you are already sort of the richest teams in world football, and if you can't handle your money, who's supposed to do that at all? So that's, to me, it's all just nonsense. That's I think for me the most infuriating part is that the Super League is just, from a PR standpoint, it's just built on lies. There's just so many lies and untruths and gaslighting.
I have the statement from him right now, from Laporte, who basically said the European Super League is a necessity. It's absolutely necessary that the big clubs, given that we generate a lot of revenue, we want to have the capacity to have our say on the process. Also, we believe that it's important that this is accompanied by an attractive competition based on sporting merit.
Sure.
Listen, fucker. You are guaranteeing yourself to stay in the competition. That's not sporting merit, you dipshit. That's the literal opposite of it. The absolute opposite of it. We are the defenders of maintaining local leagues. Yeah, whatever. Because if the big clubs don't have these resources, football will be damaged. There will be institutional harmony and a willingness to think about all of this. I mean, it's the biggest load of delusional bullshit I have heard in a sporting sense in an incredibly long time. I mean, the fact that him and Florentino Perez are so detached from reality. I think what they're looking at, it's simply down to money. Obviously, this is purely about money. It has nothing to do with the sport. They don't give two flying fucks about the health of the sport. It's about money. And they realize, given the pandemic, that the the Spanish government isn't going to bail their ass out. They don't have the funds to buy the training facilities from Real Madrid for a dozenth time to clear their bankroll. And Barcelona knows that the Spanish government has no interest in helping them, given, the whole Catalan stuff. So it's utter crap. And Juventus, well, Agnelli, the less I think about those pricks, the better. And for them, it's just they saw what the season has brought in Italy, and they just want the guarantee of the money. That's all it is. And so to see statements like that, I don't want to hear anything anymore, self-righteous Barcelona fans out there, about how much you care about community, about human rights, or anything like that. I don't want to hear your sanctimonious, self-righteous bullshit anymore. I'm done with it. I am so done with it. Because that's all it is bullshit. And, Atletico was a weird one to be thrown into that mix, but it's probably, like you said, if you look at like a Tottenham or an Arsenal, you're not guaranteed to play in the Champions League. So this is a way to guarantee the revenue, even though Atletico is guaranteed to play in the Champions League pretty much. They're unlikely to drop out of the top four in Spain, but it's absolutely dumbfounding me how incredibly tone deaf these people are. It's not even like we're talking about foreign Chinese investors who have no connection to the local community in that sense. We're talking about people from the local community that grew up in the local community that have now bought into the illusions of grandeur of what their clubs could or should or possibly be in their minds. So, yeah. Anyway, speaking of delusions of grandeur, don't we need to talk about Schalke?
Oh, yes, we do, Matthias. Oh, yes, we do.
That was a good segue, wasn't it?
Well, I was still a bit fired up about the Laporte statement because I was just, how dumb does he think we all are? Honestly, this trickle down in economics bullshit, it just never freaking works. So just save it.
Especially not in sports.
No.
It really doesn't happen in sports because you are containing the revenue just to yourself. That's not like, what was that article? I think was it on The Athletic? I forget, or New York Times, that Dortmund almost have a moral obligation to sell Erling Haaland because of the trickle down effect of the knock-on effect of the transfer. Oh, shut up. Don't throw morality into transfers. Give me a break.
Anyway, we are in the Schalke segment, so we better get to it, Matthias.
Yes, now we need to be happy again.
Not only happy, we need to be gleeful, to be honest. I know there are people out there that maybe are not as connected to the hate of Schalke 04 as I am, and I can understand that, but I really despise Schalke for so many reasons. I do not like this team and this club and their entire culture. So seeing them go down in the pandemic year with no fans in the most tragic way, I think thus far they have about 2 wins and they were sort of flukes. I think 1-0 against Hoffenheim and 2-0 or 1-0 win or something like that against Augsburg. yeah, whatever. But yeah, going down away to Bielefeld, 1-0 down to 10 men, not really having any chances. Cologne did sort of seal their fate anyway by beating Leipzig of all teams. So, Matthias, to me, this was a really happy moment when it happened. I was waiting for this to happen quite a long time, and seeing all the bitterness and the sadness coming out of the Schalke camp just gave me new life. It's just so refreshing to see, and I cannot wait for them to bungle around the second division, and maybe they're not coming back, maybe they are, I don't care, especially with the Bochum seemingly coming up, so there will be some sort of review derby. So I certainly enjoyed that particular moment. How did you live through Schalke's demise?
Well, a few things. I think the last time we had a longer Schalke Schadenfreude fest, I had a few tweets, people saying, listen, can you not do that again? That was just so, I didn't care for it. Well, tough shit. I don't really care. I just don't care. Listen, as a Westfale, as a person where one big branch of my family is from Dortmund, I hate sitting in a train that has to stop in Gelsenkirchen. Okay? It goes to that level. Because, Now, I find it very amusing that this relegation comes 20 years after Schalke thought they had won the title for 3 minutes, which was my previous favorite Schalke moment. I will say this. I am glad, you should never be glad if someone's dead. Okay? But I'm glad that Rudi Assauer, who helped Dortmund lift the European Cup, okay, didn't live to see this, because there's something about the man that was oddly likable. It's just because also he was a big part of Dortmund history before he became a huge part of Schalke history. And to have them fall to pieces like this after a decade of bad decisions and mismanagement, it brings, I don't know if joy is the right, it brings levity and hope for a better future. I mean, the fact that they got relegated the same day the Super League fell to pieces and Leipzig lost, I totally forgot about that. It was just like, oh, this is an awesome day. This is what good days feel like. We almost forgot about that during the pandemic. But no, it was an awesome moment. Like when Kaiserslautern got relegated, that bummed me out. When Hamburg got relegated, honestly, it bummed me out. I know there's some people who enjoyed it because of the stupid clock they had. But with Schalke, they fucking deserved it. I'm sorry. This wasn't unlucky. This was calculated mismanagement for too long. And to those Schalke fans who attacked the team, how dare you? You were complicit in the egomaniacal bullshit from this club and from Clemens Tönnies. Dat ist einer von uns. He's one of our guys. You were complicit in this entire thing. When Gazprom came in, there were some protests supposedly, but honestly, nobody really cared. The pomp, the showing off, this arrogance of the luck season, the fluke season under Tedesco, where you finished second, and I still don't know how that happened. Of saying, oh, we're a great club now, when you were just trash then. You just got lucky that everybody else was trash that year, except Bayern. I thought it was great. I'm glad they got relegated in that sense. Is it a loss for the Bundesliga when teams like Leipzig, Wolfsburg, maybe Leverkusen, Hoffenheim, and so on are a part of it, and a club like Schalke isn't, along with other clubs I can name that are down, like Hamburg or Kaiserslautern, Kickers Offenbach, Oberhausen, Essen, so on? Of course it is. It's a loss in general to the Bundesliga, but I'm not going to cry over it. If Bochum come back up, we're good. We've got another Revier club up here, and a significantly more likable one. And then on top of that, I think it was Moukoko's last non-senior team game. He scored, a hatful of goals against Schalke. I think it was the under-23s or the under-19s. I can't remember. And he was racially abused by Schalke fans because Gelsenkirchen is a trash city full of trash people. And as such, go down in flames. Ideally, you don't make the licensing requirements next season. You drop down in the Regionalliga West. You get to go to the Preußenstadion in Münster and watch them beat you. That would be fantastic. Ideally, Preußen Münster get promoted before then, but that's not going to happen because Dortmund's second team is absolutely running away with the Regionalliga West. But I was really happy about it. They absolutely deserve it. And I'm sorry, the fan base in Germany deserves it too because of that type of behavior. Good luck. Have fun down there playing against Jan Regensburg next season. You deserve that.
Yeah, no, Schalke deserve to go to Sandhausen like no other team, to be honest. And the truth is, especially if you juxtapose it with the Super League, right, where merit has completely died, Schalke going down the way they're going down is 100% merit. That's you're topping out on the merit part because I don't think not even Tasmania Berlin have deserved to go down like that because obviously they were a team that sort of got more or less attached to the Bundesliga and were lucky to be in there, and obviously their relegation was kind of automatic and whatnot. But Schalke, this long and steady escalation of suck. Like you said, the entire culture is just so rotten at Schalke, and I really do feel bad for the regular Schalke fans that are sort of now one up by the people that thought it was a fun idea to hunt down the players and I don't know, punch them or something. It's just despicable. And there was a player that gave an interview to Sport 1 who didn't even want to be quoted by name because he was scared of any more repercussions. And he said, we were told loud and clear that we should be ashamed of ourselves, and all the players who won't be here next year should fuck off from now on. If that doesn't happen, life would be made a living hell for us. And he continued, we were pelted with eggs, firecrackers went off, and the situation escalated completely. The fans attacked us. We just ran. It was fear, pure fear. I was just running. Some of us got kicked and punched. I'm shocked, and I don't know how we are going to compete in the next games. I also don't understand why we were exposed to the fans this way in the first place. The club said that there would be a short exchange. Meanwhile, the police waited away from that situation. And my former colleague, ESPN colleague Stefan Oestfeld, obviously covered this entire malaise, and there's a quote from his ESPN piece that I don't know, I don't even know what to say, but it reads: local outlet WAZ reported that the players were largely left unharmed and quote got away with a few bruises. Matthias, I don't know about you, but I would never put largely left unharmed and got away with a few bruises in one sentence. Obviously can't blame Stefan Oestfeld here because he's only quoting WAZ. But nevertheless, just thinking about what could have happened to some players, this is really dire. And if anything, sort of this is the cherry on the shit sundae that Schalke are, and it is just so despicable, and it really puts the Bundesliga in a bad light that fans behave like that in the first place. It's just it brings smut on all of us, and I don't want that here. So I'm very glad that they are going down, because if it weren't deserved then, which it was, then it would have been deserved then.
Yeah, I think Gerald Asamoah, I saw he was quoted in Kicker saying, he was in fear of his life, which Gerald Asamoah, any Schalke fan that attacks him is just a piece of shit, because I'm not a Gerald Asamoah fan because I remember too many matches against Schalke with him in the squad and he kind of act like a prick, which, that kit just rubs off on you. But he's a legend for that club. He's given everything for that club. And for him to be in the state of shock that he was after that, says it all. I mean, as far as fan violence goes, I mean, we all know that every club that actually has fans, obviously not Wolfsburg, Leipzig, or Hoffenheim, has that element within the scene. You think about Hertha a few years ago when they stormed the pitch. Köln, of course, is notorious that way. Frankfurt used to be that way, less so. Dortmund used to be that way, a little bit less so. But there's still that element in there, especially clubs of that size that also come from an area where that is the main and sole identification. I mean, there is nothing in Gelsenkirchen except Schalke. There is absolutely nothing for those people there. And so you couple that with I always say people would be more chill if we wouldn't have a pandemic, because it just raises anxiety levels to a level that you and I haven't seen in our lives. That this kind of stuff happens. Can it happen? Yes. Should it happen? Absolutely not. I don't know enough about the situation on the ground with the police to be able to comment on that, because obviously that's not really something the club has control over, even though they can coordinate it with the Einsatzleitung. I know that. They should be able to tell them, hey, we're going to be here, here, here at this and this time. And they could expect fans to act this way after you get relegated after 30 years in the Bundesliga, especially after this season and especially in Gelsenkirchen. But I agree with you that it was reported that, just a few bruises. I mean, they shouldn't have any bruises from coming home from work. Should you question those players? Absolutely. Should you berate them? Sure. Because I would argue most of them didn't give a crap this season. But attacking anybody in a situation like that over a game is completely unacceptable. It's kind of like when Leipzig's first match in Dortmund and some Dortmund idiotic fans attacked Leipzig fans that were there, both of them. That's unacceptable. It's a game, okay? When it comes down to that, it's just a game. So I'm glad they're gone. I'm glad they're in the Zweite Liga. Hopefully they'll be in the Regionalliga or Oberliga in a few years, and we never have to hear the word Schalke again. Odds are we will, excuse me. But I don't foresee Schalke returning to the Bundesliga after one season in the Zweite Liga, because I don't see how any of these players can come back. I don't see how their employer can expect them to come back after this. I wouldn't want to. They've all made enough money that I was like, it's fine, I'll just sit it out. I don't care. It's an unsafe work environment. And by law, in Germany, if you feel that you're at an unsafe, threatening work environment, you are absolutely within your rights to cancel your work contract. So, if I was one of those players, I wouldn't play for the rest of the season. I'd be like, I'm out of here, bitches.
Yeah, I mean, does it really matter, those 4 games for Schalke now anyway? I mean, there will be that last one way or another. So, it's just an all around terrible situation. And I must say, this thing took away a bit from my Schadenfreude, because obviously I don't enjoy people physically getting abused. So, it's very problematic. But Matthias, now we have to come back from all the way at the bottom to talk about hope, because that is what Dortmund have right now. They have to do a lot of things to achieve a top 4 finish. And like I said on the previous episode, I really hope if one team drops out of the top 4 for Dortmund to pounce, it's Wolfsburg and not Frankfurt. But now we will be going into this game, and Dortmund have a chance, I think, for the 5th time in a row, something like, or 6th time in a row, to beat this Wolfsburg team, a side where Dortmund traditionally have always looked good against, even though the games themselves were always tight and hard fought. But somehow Dortmund always managed to come out ahead. Matthias, this is going to be an absolutely massive game. I think the Wolfsburg versus Frankfurt one was probably one of the best Bundesliga games I've seen this season. They are a terrific team. They're usually very well organized in their defense, and they have with Wout Weghorst someone who is just on fire and scores left, right, and center. It's a very difficult season, and obviously it does not surprise me that teams that usually do not have such a big following do have some profit from the fact that there are no fans in the stands. I really do believe that the fact that Wolfsburg are where they are also has to do with the pandemic right now, and that they handle things a little bit better. Maybe this is nonsense, but that's my opinion. So obviously we haven't talked about it in the Union Berlin game, but maybe Hummels picking up this 5th yellow booking was probably one of the dumbest things he's done in his footballing career. The challenge itself was super unnecessary. I think someone wrote if he was a Kreisliga player, we knew he had already something else to do on Saturday, some other plans. I don't know what to do with that. But Matthias, not having Hummels for such a big game is not ideal. Now I assume that Emre Can will slot in as center back, and I feel like a bit more confident about him as center back right now than I do as the number 6. But if you look at his mistakes in the very first minute of the game, that also could have basically been in center back position. But all that being said, what are your hopes from Dortmund going into this game, and what do you expect from this Wolfsburg team? Do you think they will have any nerves, or do you think Wolfsburg will just cruise to a victory against Dortmund?
Well, my hopes are very clear. Dortmund win out and Wolfsburg lose out. If I look at the schedules, Wolfsburg have, between Wolfsburg, Frankfurt, and Dortmund actually have the harder schedule because they're playing Wolfsburg, Leipzig, Bayer Leverkusen, and they have a DFB Pokal match in between there, so they're going to be a little bit more fatigued.
And Dortmund do play Mainz, who are also
that's true.
in
and
really
Mainz,
form.
Exactly.
Really?
They all play against Mainz. Frankfurt plays against Mainz, which is a derby. Wolfsburg plays against Mainz on the last match day. Wolfsburg also plays against Union Berlin. Frankfurt, though, also plays against Schalke, and they play against Freiburg, and I just think they're going to beat both those teams. Mainz is kind of the interesting one in there because I tweeted this out. I think Bo Svensson deserves Coach of the Year in the Bundesliga. I maintain that position, in my opinion. The other ones would be Adi Hütter and, of course, Herr Glasner at Wolfsburg. But I just think what Bo Svensson was able to do was significantly a bigger deal. Be that as it may, I think it's going to be a very, very difficult match. I don't think Dortmund are going to run away with this one. I don't think Wolfsburg are going to run away with this one because it's not really their style. I think Wout Weghorst is going to cause a lot of problems for Akanji and Can. Not having Hummels is a huge blow. Huge blow. I'd be surprised if Piszczek doesn't start at right back in a match like this. Granted, with pace and so on, maybe Moret. That's hard for me to say, but I'd feel if Can is going to be on the right side of defense in the center back pairing, I'd be more comfortable with Piszczek there because Piszczek, he'll get beaten for pace, but he won't be out of position. I mean, his positioning is amazing. And that's really something that Can needs in that support. Akanji, my fear there is Akanji's going to try too much because he feels like he's going to have to, which at times he will. And that's when openings happen. That's when problems can happen. Also because Akanji isn't Mats Hummels. He's not the director of the defense. He's going to have to be. Maybe harken back more to the time when he partnered with Diallo in defense, where he was the captain of the defense. So I think this is going to be very, very difficult. Can Dortmund beat Wolfsburg? Yes, they can. I don't think Wolfsburg are fragile after the last couple of matches. Granted, if I look at their schedule, the last 4 matches, they beat Köln, they beat Stuttgart, and they lost to Bayern and Frankfurt each by 1 goal, which are definitely matches you can lose. I watched the Frankfurt match. I was a little surprised at times how easy it was for Frankfurt with a healthy Jadon Sancho, an angry Erling Haaland, and a top of the form Marco Reus. I think they can cause Wolfsburg problems and damage. But I don't think this is not going to be a 0-0. I don't think anyone's going to keep a clean sheet. And I would urge patience for the BVB Twitterverse out there because this match will try it.
Yeah, I really do hope that Dortmund play very smartly, because in many ways this is going to feel a bit like a Champions League game. Maybe a bit like a Champions League second leg where it's a do or die game, and Dortmund, I think, are a bit more comfortable in this situation than Wolfsburg. I think that the mental state of this game will play a major role, because I think Wolfsburg really feel like they will have something to lose, and for Dortmund it's always easier to be on a hunt, even though tactically speaking I think Wolfsburg they will be very happy just with a draw, because if they maintain a 5-point gap, then they are golden, to be honest. So if Dortmund don't win this, I think the Champions League discussion overall is completely out of the window. Dortmund have tripped up too many times to afford now any mistakes. They don't have any leeway whatsoever. So this is it. And I'm kind of excited about this, because this game really matters a lot now. We said this against the Frankfurt match and any other match, but now it's really do or die. This is really the last chance. I mean, it's still mathematically possible afterwards, but I just don't have the belief for it, to be honest. So dealing a psychological blow as well if you beat Wolfsburg, that really might help Dortmund to have them fall again, because I think Wolfsburg still play against Leipzig, so there is some hope there that they lose this match. I don't know, because Leipzig just lost to Cologne, and the Nagelsmann team is not in their best form now. That they're out of the title race, and I feel like they are deflating a little bit. Tension is just dropping. But let's not think ahead too far, because this Wolfsburg team is really in form. I think the only thing that irked me a little bit was the Castells blunders, because he was on target to be the best Bundesliga goalkeeper this season. But against Bayern, he really laid a couple of eggs, which helped Bayern, who themselves didn't play their best match, to win that game. But yeah, obviously, I think the amazing part of this Wolfsburg side is not necessarily their attack, even though Weghorst is getting a lot of praise, but Mbabu, Lacran, Brooks, and Otavio, I think, are a very solid backline. And if you have Schlager and Arnold in there in the double pivot, that is a more than solid midfield and backline. So yeah, it's just a very well organized team, and they have committed very few errors this season overall. I think that's their strength. I don't think that they are tactically doing any wonders. They are just playing on a very high baseline. And for Dortmund, in order to crack Wolfsburg, they must absolutely not start the way they started against Union Berlin, because Wolfsburg will punish Dortmund instantly. So this is why I'm talking about patience here, that Dortmund need to take things slow and ease into the game, keep the ball quite a lot, try to have stints of long possession, just like against Manchester City, that sometimes you just have to step on the ball and keep it in your own ranks, maybe to keep confidence, but also to tire out the opponent. I'm hoping that Dortmund do not go gung-ho in this game, because I don't think it's going to help them necessarily. If this becomes a chaotic game, oftentimes Dortmund do profit. I'm not sure if Dortmund will profit if it gets chaotic this time, but obviously if Wolfsburg want to make this a chaos game, they can do that by themselves, because they're good enough. They do also know how to keep the ball away from Dortmund if they have to. The only question is obviously how Wolfsburg's nerves will do. And I don't know if Jadon Sancho will start. I still find it very hard to imagine, because he just came off an injury and he only played half hour. So now playing him for 90 minutes, I don't know. And we know historically Jadon Sancho is a really good super sub. He does things off the bench quite well. So if you play him maybe a half this time, the second half, this is what I would do. I also don't know if Delaney will be back. I think he should be, according to Terzic, but obviously no confirmation on that. So yeah, maybe this would sort of be my midfield, that you have Dahoud as number 8 or number 6, and then you have Bellingham and Delaney sort of in there, and then just have Reus and Reina or Hazard, and then Haaland play a bit more conservatively. I don't know how you see it, but this is something that I could see happening, that Dortmund actually do not play like they must win this game, but rather cautiously at the beginning, and then bring the players on you need as the game progresses.
Yeah, I mean, the last few seasons, and you look at it, this was actually a match where Lucien Favre's approach always paid off quite well for Dortmund. That more patient, methodical, controlled type of game that he liked to play. And that kind of kept the chaos in check, as you mentioned. Terzic definitely is way more, Klopp in the sense of chaos and just go at it. I don't know how that's going to play out in this one. I do agree, if it turns into an open back and forth, then good God, who knows what happens. It can go either way. With Dortmund, obviously, if they're able to pull Wolfsburg apart in their structure and get them up the pitch a little bit more, I think Dortmund can destroy them. I saw what Andre Silva, how he played against them, who is an exceptionally good striker, one of the best in Europe, and completely goes under the radar, even in the Bundesliga, from reporting for whatever reason. What he did at Frankfurt against them, I think Holland, and then you throw in Sancho eventually, you have Reus in there. I think it's set up very well for Dortmund. If Mats Hummels was in the match, I would feel significantly more confident. Without him being in the match, I'm a little bit more concerned, because when you talk about being control, that's not Emre Can. Emre Can is not the control guy. He is the runner, the hard worker, the lung buster. Now having him in as your center back pairing will probably tone that down significantly. If you have him in central midfield, it can get a little bit messy at times. But I think, ideally Delaney is back in, because with Delaney, Bellingham, and Dahoud in there, Dortmund match up better than Wolfsburg, and I think they can control the match from that point. I think they can shut down Maximilian Arnold quite effectively, which then cuts the supply to Weghorst. They've done that in the past really well. Xaver Schlager, I think, he's kind of like the Wolfsburg's Emre Can, in that, he's kind of all over the place. Often very good player, but all over the place. And so if you can neutralize their playmaking ability, which isn't their strong suit, that's not what Wolfsburg is known for, but if you can neutralize that, then you neutralize the supply to Wout Weghorst, and you will force them into the killer stat, crosses. That's the thing. If Dortmund is able to do that, you're going to see a lot of long balls and crosses from Wolfsburg trying to find Weghorst. The key thing is Dortmund have to be solid in their center back pairing and goalkeeper. Marvin Hitz isn't exactly a commander of his area or the skies, so there are some concerns there, whereas Wout Weghorst is obviously exceptionally good in that scenario. Those are kind of some of the areas that I think where Wolfsburg would attack Dortmund, and Oliver Glasner is a really good coach. So, he's the better coach than Terzic, and I don't think Terzic would necessarily disagree with that, also based on just experience alone. So it's poised to be an exceptionally good match that hopefully has the right outcome, but doesn't necessarily mean that it will.
Yeah, I mean, one word about Marvin Hitz, because we've criticized him a ton, but against Union Berlin, I thought that his set-piece defending and him coming off the line and claiming a lot of balls was really good to see, and in that sense, I think we really do need that against Wolfsburg as well. And yeah, I mean, sort of playing over the wings always has been Wolfsburg's strength. So I sort of expect that, especially if Otavio is coming back and I think that should give some more freedom to Baku or Gerhard. I don't know if Maximilian Philipp will play. That's a possibility, and if he would play, it would probably more like in the 10 position or a bit behind Weghorst. Would make sense considering I assume that Wolfsburg will play a bit more on the counter-attack, and obviously they can rely on their pace because they do have a lot of pace. Obviously Weghorst is not the fastest, but the guys around him are pretty quick, whether it's Baku or I think, I don't know if Gerhard is the fastest guy, but Philipp definitely is very quick, we know that, and he has a very good shooting technique, so he can also score from outside the box, which is something that's I dread a little bit because Dortmund are in their last ditch defending, sometimes not that well organized, and especially now without Hummels, this can get even worse. So that's really one problem that Dortmund have right now, is that this Wolfsburg team in so many ways has features that can hurt Dortmund. So I really hope that Dortmund prevent that as much as possible and really try to dominate this game as much as they can. But it's going to be super tense, edge of the seat stuff. I'm sure that this Borussia Dortmund team, they will do a lot of things, but they will certainly not make things boring. So hopefully Delaney will be fit again, because I think this is a game where he could be of help. And otherwise, I think our hopes do rest off on Marco Reus and Sancho. And obviously, if Reina or Hazard decide to have a good game, I'm all for it. And I don't know if I would stick with Piszczek, but because he's not the quickest, and Wolfsburg do have a little bit more pace than Union. But I also don't know if I want to play Moray in this game. So it's a difficult one. I don't know. What are your lineup thoughts? I think my first name on the team sheet right now is Bellingham, and obviously Haaland and Reus, and then I go from there.
Yeah, I mean, ideally I'd rather have Buki in goal, but for some reason that's just not going to happen. Akanji and Can are going to be your center back pairing. On the left, you're going to have Guerrero. On the right, I'm not sure. I personally just like Piszczek, and that's nostalgia as well. Moray, maybe. I feel like Can just needs that positional awareness that Piszczek can bring on the right-hand side. And that's my only concern there. Midfield trio, because a 4-3-3 seems to be the way to go. I would definitely do Dahoud, Bellingham, and Delaney if he's fit, which hopefully he is. And then my attacking trio to start with would be Reus, Haaland, and Gio Reyna, just because he's in good form. Now, if Delaney can't play, I wouldn't mind seeing Julian Brandt in midfield trio, because you'll add even more creativity for those passes, and that way not everything has to sit on Dahoud, but that's how I'd ideally set up.
Yeah, I don't know if Delaney isn't fit, I don't know if I would go for 4-3-3, but if he is, I would do that. But yeah, it's such a difficult one. So I mean, I'm not doing the lineup. Big and breaking news here, but unfortunately, I'm also really concerned about the midfield battles, because if we have Brandt in there, he tends to slack off a little bit, and Dortmund really have to be on point there, because Wolfsburg do defeat quite a lot of opponents by winning the duels in midfield and then being able to transition. But yeah, I mean, Wout Weghorst, just to read it real quick for the people who don't know, he has scored 20 goals this season, and he also has the most assists of his teams with 7. Second highest goal scorer is Riedle Baku with 6 goals, and then you have Renato Steffen with 5 and Brekalo with 4. That's sort of what you come to expect. But as I said before, the heart of this Wolfsburg success, if you will, is their defense, because they've only scored 54 goals. Dortmund have scored 10 more. But Wolfsburg have conceded only 30 goals in 30 match days, which is quite good for them because Dortmund right now have conceded 42. I think there's only one better defense in the Bundesliga, which is Leipzig. They have conceded 25 goals. So, just to put it in perspective, the worst team right now is Schalke with 76 goals conceded. But that's on an entirely different topic. Anyway, Matthias, what's your prediction for this one?
Well, gosh, this is a tough one. I mean, heart over head, my head would say probably a 2-2 draw, if I'm perfectly honest. But obviously I don't want that. It's Wolfsburg. Dortmund need it, so I'm going to give Dortmund the extra goal and go with a 3-2 victory.
Well, here's the thing. I've been predicting a 3-1 win, and I was wrong all the time, but Dortmund kept on winning. So I'm going to predict a 3-1 win again, because I feel like it's always a realistic result with Dortmund, and Dortmund do need to win with 2 goals or more, because that gives them a better goal difference than Wolfsburg. I think if they just win with 1 goal, then I think the goal difference, because Wolfsburg right now is plus 24 and Dortmund's is plus 22. If they win with 1 goal, the goal difference would be even. But I think Dortmund would still hold the tiebreakers then, because I think one of the tiebreakers is then who has scored more goals. That would easily be Dortmund. And obviously the direct duels between those two teams, Dortmund also has one. So if it ever comes to this, then that would be nice. Goal difference will make a difference maybe this season. I could, if I'm doing the good old Tabellenrechner, I feel like the end result is that both teams finish on 64 points, and thus Dortmund do need to have a better goal difference. So that being said, if Dortmund can run out the score on Wolfsburg somehow, even though I don't really foresee that would be perfect. But a 2-2 draw, and our season is pretty much over except for the German Cup. But the good news is right now Dortmund don't feel all that much heat from behind, because Bayer Leverkusen right now are, if my math is correct, 5 points behind Dortmund. So I think that 5th place at least should be locked in, but who knows, because Dortmund also still play against Leverkusen, so nothing really is decided yet. But Matthias, it was a pleasure to have you on, and it was a fun episode. A lot of stuff is going on right now. It's the crunch time of the league for us, and stuff is going on in the world, and with Schalke going down, that was fun to talk about as well. So please tell our listeners, unless you have any final thoughts, where to find you and whatnot, and then I'll do the outro.
Aside from screw the Super League, I've got no final thoughts. And you can find me on Twitter at Matthiasuk.
Very well. You can find me at Stefan Mutzko. You can find all of us at Yellowwallpod on Twitter and Facebook. If you want to subscribe to the show, then please do that via YouTube or iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, etc. And of course, you can always support us financially on patreon.com/theyellowwall. That would be greatly appreciated. If you want to sponsor an episode to maybe celebrate a famous victory against Wolfsburg, you can do that for $10, and I'll read out your name and give you a shout out, whatever you say. And if you have any questions, always send them to our Twitter handle. That's the easiest way, or to myself on Twitter. And everything else we will talk about next week. As always, thank you for listening, and goodbye.